Next item, we wanted to put this in here before public comments, and then again, if we need to follow up with anything, just to get a little bit more clarification where the commissioners stand, particularly around where we're going with further projects in the township, particularly around how the municipal building complex and how it got to where it was at right now. I thought what we would do is kind of have this discussion on kind of where folks have stand. I think that Hank and Don, I think myself, clearly stated where we're at on it and the reasons why. There's several different documents, and we have the engineering pieces that are posted on the website as well. So what I had heard before, I think it'd be best for us to kind of talk about this a little bit. So.
I actually think this is a good idea, Mr. President, and I know we discussed this because there's so much misinformation out there or disinformation, and I think the public does have a right to know what the facts are. And you know, if you don't have all the facts, you know, the possibilities are endless what you can do with this. And I just was hoping to get a few things out there. I guess, you know, obviously we have a split board on this, and my question is, Dave and Kathy, I mean, do you have any questions or concerns that you'd like to discuss? I don't want to take up all the time. What are your thoughts on the project?
I think I made myself clear, even before the resolution came about, that we needed public input. To me, that's the proper procedure. I mean, this resolution was dropped on a Friday when I found out about it. I had no idea it was coming. To me, in our discussions, you obviously knew more about it than I did and what was coming. That's my speculation on it. I'm not saying for sure. But a public meeting was needed so that the people knew, and the people should have been able to express their opinion. I know people don't like to hear this, I know, but it is their money. It's our money, okay? And having spent 3.5 years with open space and 3.5 years on the Pottstown Area Regional Recreation Committee, I've learned a lot about what open space means to this township and the surrounding townships. And to just say, we're gonna build on it, and we drop a resolution, it was just so improper. It isn't a legal question to me anymore, it's an ethical question to me anymore. We're gonna have a building that people are just absolutely not going to accept if it goes on. This also has the possibility of costing this township tons of money, tons of money.
And I'm sorry, in what respect? The cost?
In what respect?
Cost of the building?
If we win
When what?
the lawsuit,
Oh, okay.
if we win the lawsuit, they're gonna appeal,
Mm-hmm.
okay? If they win the lawsuit, I'm sure we're gonna appeal. I don't know, I'm usually never a part of that decision process. So, if we think we're getting this building anytime soon, I think that's a far-fetched conclusion to me.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for that. And I'm glad you mentioned the lawsuit, because I wanted to get some of the facts out there. And I did talk to Trace, and I talked to Hank a little bit. You know, every resident in this town is getting sued right now. And I think they need to know at least what the outline of the lawsuit is. I know the solicitors get a little cringy when you start talking about legal actions, but I'm just gonna hit some highlights here, and maybe it's new to you, maybe it's not. I just wanna let you know, if they win, if we win. The case against us, Murray Guest versus Upper Pottsgrove, that case is weak and they know it. It is very weak. Why do you think these people are out here trying to intimidate our open space board? They ambushed them at the open space meeting, and we're going to discuss that later. Why do you think the misinformation is out there? We have constantly combated the misinformation. It's 10 to 35 acre development. Even our seasoned audience members got sucked into that 10 acre narrative. It is not 10 acres, probably 3 or less. Why do you think they threatened one of our spouses with a lawsuit? That, to me, was the end game. I mean, it wasn't my spouse, but I'm telling you, I really bought it. I thought that was horrible. And why do you think they plead with people to show up to these meetings to play the gotcha game with us? You know, and somehow one of us is gonna give up. So let's just talk about the merits of the
Can I
case.
answer?
Oh, sure.
Because they're mad.
They should, well,
It's
they're-
as simple as that. They're angry because they're left out of the decision process, which I think they should have had a voice in.
Thank you.
well,
Thank you.
Don,
thanks.
I agree with what Kathy said, and my biggest problem was, all we had to do is take a couple commissioners, the township manager, and a handful of people from the public, and sit down, pick the 3 best spots out, and then make a decision. Everybody totally involved in the decision. Not on a given night, we're voting, this is what we're doing. I think that's why people are upset.
Well, as far as I understand, this site was selected far
It was
before I-
never voted on, this site was never voted on,
Well,
and
we
we
knew-
asked the next commissioner, that was a commissioner at that time.
Well, the site was selected long before I became a commissioner, officially or not, it was selected. But let's get back to the merits of the case a little bit, and I think that is something I want at least the public to understand is, you know, the merits of this case, you know, a very big part of this case is based on the Donated and Dedicated Property Act 53. Does anybody in this room honestly think that property was donated to us? I don't, you know, where's that big check that we had? We had a big check floating around that we paid for the property. And it's either was donated or it wasn't. And I think that's, I mean, it's such a simple question, but we have to pay quite a bit of money to answer this case. You know, and I think the whole idea is just to bleed us with time and money. You know, this one, you know, this is an easy argument to win, and, you know, I know that maybe someone should ask the plaintiffs, how are you basing your case on this being donated to the township? I would like to know.
Can I answer?
Sure.
I don't think anyone is surmising that it was donated. I really don't. Everybody knows we pay for open space.
We
That's why we have the tax.
Sure.
You voted for it, you paid for it.
Well, I agree, but it's in the complaint.
What's the argument?
The complaint says the Donated and Dedicated Property Act applies to us. We cannot build on this property because of that. And I agree with you. I don't think anybody in their right mind thinks it was donated, but it's a complaint against us. And like I said, when I go back to my first tenant, this case is weak. I don't know what the motions are in Montgomery County courts, but if you're in federal court, you just motion to strike your judge. I mean, there's nothing there. The other big part of their case, excuse me, the other big part of their case, it's just about as easy to dispute, okay?
Can
And
we get quiet out there, please?
I think it's just as easy to dispute the other part is that somehow we will violate the Open Space Act 32 if we build a structure on the property. If anybody actually reads the Open Space Act, which I have done, and tries to understand it, the Open Space Act allows for reasonable development. In fact, if you actually read the act, it says something like open space uses. Local municipalities set the policy for those uses. Those policies over time can evolve, but us building on this property, we're not exactly trailblazing a new concept here. By building on open space, and actually, to the contrary, I think we're following precedents. And I know you may take that funny, but, back in 2010, 2 years after we bought the property, there was a vote, 5-0, and that it was in the best interest of the public to build a commercial structure on open space. And it actually was on this property. It was clearly commercial use, but it did benefit the public, and I do believe that the Board of Commissioners back then made the right choice. They parceled off we think, about 1.2 acres, which is roughly the same size as this project, and that structure was a cell phone tower. Now, a cell phone tower is simply not a pole that goes up in the air, because apparently we had to parcel off about 1.2 acres, as I said. You know, we make $30,000 a year, and I'm gonna tell you, those board of commissioners back then probably had the foresight saying, you know, 30,000 over 10 years, you're getting some real money here. Anyways, we have built an open space before. There is a process for building an open space. And I think, Mr. President, if I may ask the solicitors a question, I mean, you could say you do it in executive session, but the public needs to know about this. My question is, you know, and there may be people in this room with some historical knowledge on this. When the township previously built an open space, AKA permanently preserved open space, AKA township property, the part of that process must have been to subdivide off a chunk of land, to delineate that somehow. I wanna try to understand, to make, why we did that. I'm not disagreeing with it. I wanna understand why we did that, and if, we're not missing that part as we move forward with this project. So if we have to somehow subdivide, delineate, I just wanna make sure that the solicitors know, maybe help us understand the process, and it doesn't have to be done tonight, because it's kind of an ambush question, so. Thank you on that part.
If I just add a couple things
Please do.
on, we'll continue on. Just to remind everybody, it's just not the Board of Commissioners or anybody who shows up to the meeting to make these decisions. We have almost 6,000 residents here, 4,058 voters that are here. And